By answering every single text, call, and emergency request within 3 seconds, you are actively broadcasting to the entire world that your time has zero value. This is the incredible story of a 32-year-old horologist and master watchmaker who spent his days running his nervous system into absolute ground, acting as a free on-call puppet for ungrateful clients. What he discovered hidden inside the deliberate mechanical delays of an elite, historic tourbillon watch didn't just restore his sanity, it transformed him into a highly exclusive horological designer whose bespoke timepieces are back-ordered for 5 years. The strict availability protocol he deployed will permanently reset your human boundaries. Caleb leaned over his vintage oak workbench, his right eye pressed tightly against a brass loop, his fingers carefully balancing a microscopic balance spring with a pair of ultra-fine steel tweezers. Around him, the walls of his cramped metropolitan workshop hummed with a dizzying, relentless chorus of hundreds of ticking gears, grandfather clocks, and mechanical movements. At 32, Caleb possessed a deep, soulful understanding of kinetic physics, micromechanics, and metallurgy. He could take a completely crushed, century-old pocket watch, recreate its missing gears by hand using raw brass stock, and adjust its internal alignment until it kept time to within a single second per week. His deepest, most meaningful dream was to design his own independent mechanical movement, the Sovereign Caliber, a completely original, handcrafted luxury watch that would place his independent workshop on the level of the great Swiss horological houses. Yet, despite his brilliant hands and profound intellectual capacity, Caleb carried a heavy, draining psychological flaw that kept his bank accounts low and his stress levels dangerously high. He was permanently, aggressively available. The moment his phone buzzed, a client emailed, or a local collector knocked on his glass door with a minor repair emergency, Caleb would instantly drop his master designs, abandon his focused work, and solve their problems. He falsely believed that being completely accessible, ultra-responsive, and endlessly accommodating was the only way to build a loyal customer base and earn the city's professional respect. The devastating emotional consequence of this chronic over-availability systematically fractured his daily reality. His younger sister, who managed the front desk of the workshop and desperately tried to keep his production schedule organized, grew increasingly frustrated by his lack of personal boundaries. Clients would routinely text Caleb's personal number at 2 o'clock in the morning, demanding status updates on basic battery replacements, or show up unannounced on Sundays, expecting him to open the shop and adjust their watch bands for free. Because he was constantly reacting to these low-value external demands, Caleb hadn't completed a single structural component of his signature Sovereign Caliber project in over 7 months. Seeing his sister look at him with a quiet, exhausted disappointment as she field-called dozens of impatient, low-tier clients who spoke to him with a condescending, demanding tone, left Caleb with a profound, crushing sense of internal emptiness. He returned to his bench late one evening, his eyes burning from exhaustion, his hands trembling so severely from a lack of sleep that he slipped with a diamond file, deeply scratching a rare, 5-figure platinum watch case belonging to a high-end collector. His instant availability wasn't building respect. It was actively making him a cheap, stressed-out commodity. He fell behind on his commercial rent. The local electric grid utility threatened to cut off the precise climate control power needed for his calibration instruments, and he spent his midnights pacing the shop floor, trapped in a severe loop of nervous palpitations and chronic anxiety. The ultimate crisis struck on a stifling midsummer afternoon. The managing director of a prestigious international luxury watch guild arrived at the studio to evaluate Caleb's progress on the Sovereign Caliber prototype for a highly lucrative independent development grant. Caleb had spent weeks trying to assemble the delicate gear train, but because he had allowed local walk-in clients to constantly interrupt his schedule to fix cheap, mass-produced digital watches, the prototype was completely unfinished. When the director asked to see the completed movement, Caleb could only show him an unorganized array of loose gears and a series of rough sketches. As the director shook his head with cold professionalism, Caleb's phone began to ring loudly, a demanding client complaining about a minor scratch on a $10 buckle. The director looked at the ringing phone, then looked at Caleb with a look of pure pity. A master artisan controls his time, "Caleb," the director said softly as he closed his leather portfolio case, "if you are available to everyone for every minor problem, it tells me you have nothing truly valuable happening in this room. The guild cannot invest in a craftsman who treats his own genius like a drivecraft through service." The moment the door clicked shut, Caleb dropped his tools, fell back into his worn leather chair, and covered his face with his hands, his chest heaving with a sudden, violent wave of panic. He had spent his entire adult life trying to please everyone by being instantly accessible, and his ultimate reward was an empty development pipeline, a ruined grant opportunity, and a broken spirit. That Saturday evening, unable to bear the constant pinging of his smartphone, Caleb packed his basic loop and left the city, driving up into the rocky, isolated northern foothills until he reached an ancient stone mill where a 76-year-old master horologist named Thaddeus lived in total seclusion. Thaddeus was a legendary figure in the high-end watch world, an artisan who had spent 40 years designing complex astronomical clocks for royal families without ever owning a cell phone or responding to public inquiries. He lived with a deep, slow, and completely unbothered peace, moving through his vast workshop with absolute, quiet deliberation. Thaddeus noticed Caleb staring at his pristine tools with a wild, frantic expression of absolute burnout in his eyes. "You look like a watch whose mainspring has been wound so tight it is about to snap and tear the teeth off the gears, Caleb," Thaddeus said, his voice slow, deep, and steady, like a heavy brass pendulum. "My life is completely out of my control," Caleb said, his voice cracking with intense, raw emotion. "I try to keep every client happy. I answer every message immediately, and I work 16 hours a day. But I'm falling behind. My prototype is a failure, and the Watch Guild thinks I'm an unorganized joke. I'm trying to be reliable, but the more available I am, the less people respect my work." Thaddeus stood up, walked over to a secure glass cabinet, and carefully pulled out a breathtaking, centuries-old marine chronometer, a massive, intricate clock built to help navigators find longitude at sea. He set it on the table between them and removed the outer protective casing, exposing the magnificent mechanical heart within. "Look at the escape wheel, Caleb," Thaddeus commanded. Caleb leaned over, his eyes tracking the rhythmic, hypnotic movement of the tiny steel teeth. It stops and starts. It catches, holds, and then releases. Thaddeus nodded slowly. This mechanism survives the violent rolling of ocean storms because it executes a strict, unyielding system of intentional resistance. It does not spin freely like a useless toy. It locks itself in place, refuses to move, and creates a calculated delay before it releases a single drop of energy. That deliberate delay is what creates accuracy, value, and power. Your life is currently a broken gear train spinning out of control because you have no escape mechanism. You think you are being helpful by being endlessly available. But an artisan who is always accessible is an artisan who has no self-respect. If you do not gate your presence, the world will consume your life energy for free and call you incompetent for letting them do it. For the next 90 days, you will execute the Horological Guard protocol. You will completely turn off your phone during your creative hours. You will restrict your public client consultations to exactly 4 hours, 2 days a week. You will refuse all walk-in emergencies, and you will force every client to wait a minimum of 48 hours for a response. Let the scarcity create the value. The next morning, Caleb stood inside his workshop at 6 a.m., his body trembling with a profound internal psychological friction. He took his smartphone, walked over to a heavy iron lockbox at the back of the room, placed the device inside, and turned the key. The internal resistance from his old behavioral habits was an absolute wall of mental fire. Within an hour, as he sat down to work on the balance wheel of his Sovereign Caliber project, his brain instantly flooded with a tidal wave of panic, screaming that his clients would assume he had died, that his business would go under, and that his sister would face an army of furious collectors. He sat at his bench, his chest tightening so severely his breath came in short gasps, his hand repeatedly reaching out toward the empty spot on his desk where his phone used to sit. He sat there for 30 minutes, completely locked in place by his own anxiety. But the memory of Thaddeus's marine chronometer holding its ground against the storm echoed in his mind. Caleb forced his hands to remain on his tools. He focused his eye through the lope, picked up his fine oiler tool, and placed a microscopic drop of synthetic lubricant onto the jewel pivot of his balance wheel. When a local wealthy collector came to the shop door at 10 a.m., loudly rattling the glass handle to demand a quick adjustment on his luxury sports watch, Caleb's old habits pulled at him to jump up and apologize. Instead, Caleb kept his eye locked inside his lope, his spine perfectly straight, completely ignoring the noise. His sister calmly pointed the collector to a newly printed sign on the door: "Consultations by appointment only, Tuesday and Thursday, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. The collector looked completely stunned, waited for 5 minutes, and then walked away. A quiet shockwave of realization hit Caleb's mind. The world didn't end because he was unavailable. The boundary had actually held. He poured his newly protected time entirely into his work. He established a strict daily discipline, the focused caliber block. From 6 a.m. until 1 p.m., the shop doors remained locked, the lights were kept low, and Caleb worked in total, uninterrupted silence. He stopped responding to midnight messages, completely deleted his instant messaging business apps, and forced every communication through a structured email system that he only checked at the very end of the day. A major new challenge struck during his 4th week of the protocol. A high-profile corporate executive who had previously left an expensive vintage chronograph for an extensive restoration sent an aggressive, demanding email stating that if his watch wasn't completely finished and hand-delivered to his office within 24 hours, he would pull his business entirely and leave a series of devastating, negative reviews online. The old Caleb would have gone into an absolute panic, stayed up all night working under frantic stress, and sacrificed his health to appease the executive's ego. He sat at his desk, looking at the screen, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. He executed the protocol, he closed the laptop, walked away, and didn't respond for 24 hours. The next afternoon, he sent a short, completely professional, and unhurried email. The restoration of a historical timepiece requires a fixed chemical curing phase for the internal gaskets. Your watch will be safely completed and calibrated by the original scheduled date of the 14th. If this timeline does not align with your preferences, we can safely reassemble the piece now for immediate pickup. The executive didn't pull his business. Instead, he responded 3 hours later with a remarkably altered, polite tone. "Understood. Please take whatever time is required to ensure absolute perfection." A profound new discovery surfaced inside Caleb's awareness. By refusing to dance to the executive's frantic timeline, he had completely shifted the power dynamic. His unavailability hadn't driven the client away. It had instantly signaled that his technical standards were unyielding and premium. Small, beautiful signs of operational success began to emerge from this quiet discipline. Within 60 days, the chronic, frantic exhaustion that had made his shoulders slouch for a decade completely vanished. His mind became incredibly sharp, fast, and analytical. Because he was no longer wasting his vital life energy on constant, low-value micro-emergencies, his hands regained an immaculate fluid precision. He managed to successfully build the intricate tourbillon cage for his sovereign caliber movement, a highly advanced mechanism designed to counter the distorting effects of gravity on the watch's accuracy, crafting the components down to a tolerance of less than 4 microns. His growing confidence and absolute self-respect completely transformed the social dynamics of his workshop. The difficult, demanding clients who used to treat him like a cheap repair technician noticed that Caleb was no longer accessible, no longer apologetic, and no longer rushed to appease their demands. They had to book appointments weeks in advance just to stand before his workbench. Paradoxically, this newly created scarcity triggered a massive surge in his reputation. The city's high-end collectors began whispering about the reclusive, brilliant watchmaker in the metropolitan district who refused to compromise his time for anyone, viewing his strict availability lines as definitive proof of his elite status. A massive new challenge tested his discipline during his 3rd month of isolation. The annual Metropolitan Horological Exhibition was hosted downtown, drawing top collectors and global luxury buyers from across the country. Caleb's sister had secured a small display booth to showcase his independent work. On the second afternoon of the exhibition, the managing director of the Watch Guild, who had previously rejected Caleb's unfinished grant application, walked into his booth. He stood before the display glass, his eyes widening in total disbelief as he looked at the completed, purring prototype of the Sovereign Caliber movement. It was a masterpiece of spontaneous engineering, its hand-polished steel bridges and gold gear trains moving with a hypnotic, flawless, fluid grace. "This is extraordinary work, Caleb," the director said, his voice filled with genuine awe. "The balance stability is immaculate. The Watch Guild has reopened the development grant pool. If you can bring this prototype to our central offices tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for a private review session, we can finalize the multi-million-dollar funding layout on the spot." The old Caleb would have jumped at the opportunity, smiling, nodding, and canceling his entire week's schedule to accommodate the director's sudden timeline, desperate for the validation of the grant. But his mind was no longer a frantic, reactive machine. It was an unshakable marine chronometer. He looked the director directly in the eyes, his expression completely calm, detached, and entirely unhurried. "Tomorrow morning is my primary design block," Caleb said, his voice dropping to a steady, commanding baritone. "My workshop doors do not open for external reviews until Thursday afternoon. My sister can schedule a formal consultation for you at 2 p.m. on that day if the slot remains available." The director looked completely stunned, a brief flash of irritation crossing his face, before it was replaced by a deep, undeniable look of profound professional respect. He realized that Caleb was no longer a desperate solicitor begging for a check. He was a sovereign master craftsman who guarded his time with his life. "I will see you on Thursday at 2 p.m. sharp, Caleb," the director said, bowing his head slightly in acknowledgement before walking out of the booth. "My friend, this story is not really about watchmaking, luxury gears, or international design grants. It is a profound psychological mirror showing you the exact danger of treating your personal availability as an open door that anyone can walk through for free. Every single time you answer a text in 3 seconds, handle a lazy person's emergency, or compromise your focused hours to avoid looking difficult, you are actively teaching the world that your existence has zero value. Scarcity creates respect. The question is not whether people will try to consume your time and drain your life energy. The question is whether you have the absolute raw courage to turn the key, lock your iron box, value your presence, and show the world that your life is not for sale. Set your boundaries and begin.